So we're going to get started for the afternoon workshop at Quantum Leap into 2021, and it's a great pleasure to be welcoming Sapna Pieroux to do her brand thing with us. Sapna is a multi-award winning brand consultant, an author and a speaker, and she's a lecturer, and I'm very excited to be tuning in to find out what Sapna is going to be sharing with us all this afternoon. So I'll pass over to Sapna and let her take it away. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, and what a lovely introduction. Thank you, Alex. Right, so hi everyone. Really glad to see you all, and do feel free to, if you're shy people, to turn on your cameras so I can see your faces, if you can. Some of you might be having lunch. So today I've got a lot to get through, so I'm going to crack on. We're going to talk about how to, oh hello Andrew there, how to build your brand and build your business. So as Alex already said, this is me. My company is called Innovisions ID, and we do what we call branding that means business. We work with entrepreneurs and help them to get more visible, which was the title of our book. We help them get brand clarity, stand out in your industry, and supercharge your business growth. So the book came out in January, so it's coming up to nearly its first birthday. I've got a copy here, but you've already got it on screen, so I don't need to show that, but you can see the size of it now. It feels very nice as well if you get a print copy. And it went on to win an award at the Business Book Awards in March 2020, which was when I had to accept it by, in my bedroom in my awards dress, because we'd just gone into lockdown. But what it has done is, really helped quite a lot of entrepreneurs kind of really understand brand. My background is that I was trained as a graphic designer. I did a degree in graphic design at Newcastle, but I realized that by the end of the degree that I still had no idea about business and the people that I wanted to help, because most design courses don't teach you about business. Most designers, if you've ever worked with them, don't really understand business. And so I decided to do a postgrad in marketing, because I figured that way I could understand how design fits into the marketing mix and how it can actually help businesses. So if I could actually understand how marketers think and how business people think, that would give me my USP, which is kind of what's happened. So the book actually is written for entrepreneurs and business owners to help them understand brand, and to help them get a better understanding of how to build their brand so that they can give a better brief to their designer when they get to that point, and get a better result. So what we're going through today is just a little bit about brand as a general concept. Then we're going to go into my do, say, see model, which is kind of the 3 pillars of building your brand. How we're going to do that is through my 6-stage process. Do make notes, but if you've got any questions, pop them into the chat, and I'll try and answer them after each section. I'm going to go through some case studies. There's one that's interwoven in the presentation, but then there's a few sort of core case studies at the end, so you can actually see how that works. Who here, show of hands, has got existing businesses? Just a show of hands. Right, you've got existing. And is anybody who's sort of starting out and hasn't got a business yet? Yeah. Okay. Cool. James. Yeah. So yeah. So then hopefully this process works whether you've got a new business or you've got an existing business. The case studies at the end are going to show you how existing businesses have used this process, and the one that we're talking about throughout is a new business. And then, as I say, questions, just drop them into the chat, and we'll take them there. Now, does anybody know what the significance of, or does anyone know what this picture is showing? Yeah. Big Ben, you can take your mic off if you're answering. Yeah, it's Big Ben. Does anyone know what the, just take your mic off if you know what the significance might be and why I'm showing you this? Nobody? Right, okay, it's a tough one. Does anyone know how much social media we scroll through every day? Who's on social media? Who's on social media trying to promote their businesses? Right, quite a big show of hands there. Did you know that we scroll through 96 meters of social media a day as an average, right? That is roughly the height of Big Ben, just to put that into context, or the height of the Eiffel Tower if you're French, or the height of the Statue of Liberty if you're American. And I didn't actually realize they were all about the same height until I found this stat, and this is a true stat. I'm not going to read those figures out. They're big figures. That's what that means. So if you're putting out a blog post or a bit of Facebook video, or, you know, something on Instagram or whatever, you're up against this globally per day. How the hell do you stand out, right? Your brand has got, well, I say here less than 6 seconds. That's in real life. We decide if we want to work with somebody within 6 seconds of actually meeting them. When people are scrolling this fast, you've got less than that. You've got about a second to make that impression. You've got 6 seconds for them to interact with your brand if you catch their eye in the first place, right? So they need to stop. That'll take them a second. They need to clock what you do. They need to understand what your message is, and only then will they click. That whole process takes about 6 seconds. Can anyone tell me what a brand is? Please take your mic off if you just do answer. No, everybody's really shy today. Who thinks your brand is your logo?
Sapna, everybody's on mute, just so
everybody is on mute. Oh, so you've made them on mute. Oh, I see.
Yeah, just so we don't. Otherwise, we could be.
I was trying to be all interactive. Right, I'll just speak at you then. Put your comments in the chat. Right. So this is an analogy I came up with. So if you think your brand's your logo, you're wrong, because that's where it is there, right? If you think of your brand as like the entire iceberg, this is an iceberg. Your logo is at the tip of the iceberg, and it is the most visible part of your brand, perhaps. So you can see it for miles, and it goes across everything. This other bit here above the water that's visible is your branding, right? Your branding is also your color, your typography, your imagery, your messaging, right? It's the stuff that people see, but what lies beneath is also part of your brand. And it's the thing that's actually going to keep your company and your brand stable whilst these crashing waves, which represent the market, stuff can change in the market. And if you without the bit that's underneath the water, your brand will just sort of bob about, float and kind of drift off, right? And it can quickly lose direction. The bit underneath is what's going to keep it stable in current times. Okay, just got some few chat bits. I'm just going to check those. Your brand is your product. Your brand is how people see you, and it's how you make people feel. All good, yeah, but it's actually your brand is the customer experience. It's actually everything. It's every touch point of your business. So I've worked, my business has been going for nearly 5, coming up to 6 years actually. And I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, 50 alone this year. And I recognize there's a pattern that people, a mistake that they keep making. Does everyone want to know what that number one mistake is, right? So it's this. So they focus on, so the model that I came up with was do, say, see, to explain this. So the first thing that you do when you're setting up a business is you focus on what you're going to do. You're going to focus on the difference you're going to make, the product or service you're going to sell, how you're going to deliver it, who you're going to need, what systems and processes you need, what equipment, perhaps potentially what premises. That's your do. Without a do, you do not have a business, right? So that is the difference you're going to make to the world, what you're going to sell, how you're going to make your money. Next thing you focus on is the say. The say is telling people about it, because without telling people about it, you haven't got a business as well. If nobody knows, then how they're going to buy from you. Your say is your written and spoken word, right? So that's your elevator pitch. It's turning up to do talks like this. It's writing a book. It could be blog posts. It's your social media messaging. It's the YouTube videos that you put out. It's the written and spoken word of how you are going to convey your business. The number one mistake that entrepreneurs make is that they leave this till the last minute, and it's their C. Now your C is not just your logo. They'll run out and get a logo done straight away, right? They'll get the logo done, but the C encompasses so much more. It is your branding. It is the logo and the colors and the typefaces and all those things that I say that's above the water, but it's also the first impression that people get of your business. Now think about the first impression that people get. That's when they land on your website. That's when you hand them a business card. It's when you turn up to a meeting. It's when you turn up to a Zoom meeting. What are you wearing? Are there pants on an ironing board behind you? What impression are you giving of you and your business? It's the first impression, and your branding is part of it, but it's not all of it. However, Branding's really important. I think it was Jeff Bezos from Amazon, who said that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in a room. In 2020, none of us have been in the room with our clients, right? Nobody's been in that room apart from us. So your brand is even more important, especially if people are doing this on their phones, 96 meters, remember. If you are not catching their attention and if you're not making a great first impression, you are what I call an invisible brand, because if you're not being seen, you have no chance of converting them, right? If you do get seen and then you don't have clear messaging, you're what I call an incoherent brand. That's when people don't know how you can help them, or if you can help them, or what you do, because your messaging's not clear. They can't find the information on your website when they click through. They can't, there's something there that just kind of doesn't work. And again, they'll click away because they won't be able to work out how awesome you actually are. The worst one, in my opinion, is the insincere brand, which is when your C and your say are fine. So you've got a great looking website and your say is the pitch is great. So this is having the slick salesman with all the patter, and then failing to deliver and failing to actually deliver on your promises. And that's when you have an insincere brand. So any one of these 3 pillars are all like a 3-legged stool. When they come together, that's where you build your stable business. But if any one of those things is out of kilter and don't align, then you're not going to be building that solid brand. But where they cross over, that's in the middle. So if you imagine you've got a great product or service, and you say you've got a great product or service, but then people land on your website and it's slow to load up. The design looks awful. They can't work out what and where on earth to go, and they can't even see the imagery because there's a thing. They're going to click away. So that's the first impression. Okay, so those 3 need to align in order to build your strongest perfect brand. So how do you do that? This is the thing that I came up with. So my background, as some of you may have heard already, was I studied graphic design at university, but then realised that most designers don't understand marketing, and most marketing and business people don't understand design. And I really wanted to help business people, so I took this postgrad in marketing as well. The vision process, actually, I've worked as a marketer and I've worked as a designer. I've seen the frustrations and experienced the frustrations on both sides. I've been the client, I've been the designer. So the vision process actually is a half and half process. The first 3 sections are about brand strategy, which is stuff that you can do yourself and make lots of notes. You're going to get a lot out of today. So the first 3 parts, vision, inner brand, and standout, are about strategy. And the last 3 parts are about design and implementation. So that's where you can get your designer involved. But the first 3 parts, when a business owner says to people, says to a designer, I want you to create me a brand, that's you being lazy, by the way. Because your designer is not there to create your brand. You are. Your brand is your business. It's not the logo, right? So you should take ownership of this, and it's your brand. The designer can only make it visual once you understand what your brand's about. So the first exercise, that we're not going to have time to actually do the exercises, but I'm going to tell you about the exercises and then go through them in your own time. But I will show you a case study of how we do this. So I ask my clients that are going to work with me first to think about their fabs. What are their fabs? They're their 5 aspirational brands. Think about businesses that you look at in and out of your industry, that you look at and you go, one day I want to be like them. I want to be thought of in that way. I want to have that kind of brand loyalty. I want to have those kind of brand fans. I want that kind of recommendation, and it's that kind of image, or it could be anything. Quite often it's nothing to do with the logo. You'll realize it's nothing to do with the logo. I want my customers to have that kind of experience. I want them to feel. So what are the businesses that actually you aspire to be like? Think about that, and I will show you an example in a minute. The next thing that you need to think about is your vision. So this is what I take my customers through is, what is your big business vision? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be famous for? What do you want to be talked about for? And why will people queue up around the block to work with you, right? So I just had another, not Ryanair, Chris Brain has said, yeah, no, not Ryanair. So your vision is kind of like the big hairy goal, if you like, right? And it's kind of your aspiration, because the brand that you create needs to be speaking to that aspiration and needs to align with where you want to take your company over the next 3 to 5 years. I give that time window because any brand that's created for you now should last you 3 to 5 years. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't really do trendy design, and I don't follow design trends, because anything that's trendy will also run the risk of being untrendy. What we're trying to do is have a brand that helps you grow, right? And helps your business grow and helps that aspiration. The next thing I ask is we talk about your customer vision. What is the vision for your customer? Who are they? What are their pain points that you're going to be able to help them with? But what's their business? What's their transformation? What's the transformation to their life, having worked with you, having spent with you? That's the thing that we really need to get out of this, and really focus on your messaging to actually talk to your customers about their customer vision. It's not enough to tell people what you do. It's more about how you're going to change people's lives. People are always thinking, what's in it for me, right? You're here because you want to know about what's in this for you. I'm going to help you grow your brand, grow your business by growing your brand and developing your brand. So, so this is a customer of mine, Lorna Reeves, who these were her 5 aspirational brands. Lorna was setting up a wedding company for the LGBT community. That was born out of the pain point that she had, which was when she was wanting to get married to her partner Sharon, the amount of suppliers that she went to who asked about her boyfriend, or what is your husband's name going to be, and they just assumed she was straight. So she kind of felt that she was having to come out every single time she spoke to a supplier. She was having to come out. She thought it shouldn't have to be like this. So she set up a wedding business, which actually went on to be Wedding Business of the Year, Wedding Supplier of the Year in 2019. Not for the LGBT community. This was the National Business Awards. So her brands that she put in there were Chanel, Mero, which is actually the scary one off MasterChef's Monica, at her restaurant where she and her partner had gone for a big birthday, Jimmy Choo, Jo Malone, and Liberty. So when we broke these down, I'm only going to do a top line on this. Obviously, there was this feeling of luxury, there was high end, there was spoiling yourself, all things that a bride or a groom may want to feel on their wedding day. It was a treat, it was classic design. If we're starting to get really granular, the images were all kind of beautifully shot images. There was a lot of black and white going on, and black and white is quite luxury, and subdued colours if there were colours at all. Obviously, we're not looking at Jimmy Choo's shoes there, or the dress there. Who was Lorna's target market? So they were men and women. So we couldn't be going too down the sort of bridal route, obviously, with this, because it wasn't going to be relevant. But this was the kind of lifestyle that she was aspiring to. These were people that had maybe 70 grand each kind of wage. They've got more money than time. They're living this kind of lifestyle, and they want a beautiful wedding. I mean, I worked with her on naming the business as well. We're not going to go into naming because that's an entire talk of its own. But I named her company, by the way, My Oh My Weddings. And she said that was lovely because it was kind of the feeling that she wanted when people came into the room, that she dressed and prepared. It was, my oh my. And she said, and it was a little bit Judy Garland as well, she said, which kind of tied in. It was a little bit camp and a little bit Judy Garland. So this was kind of those are the 3 things that you need to think about: your fabs, your business vision, and your customer vision, and who they are and what's their kind of lifestyle. Next thing we move to is the inner brand. Now, the inner brand is really important, and never more so than 2020. Your inner brand is what I call the inner brand, because it fit in with my mnemonic of vision. It was an I, but it's the unseen part of your brand, but it's the bit under that water where people are going to make that connection. Or your business values, your company values, your company personality, and your company voice. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, you are not going to be starting a company with values that are opposite to your own. So you will certainly maybe start looking at your own values, but don't put things like honesty in, because like we kind of assume honesty, right? These are reasons why people would want to connect with you, that are going to feel this emotional. Once you've got their hearts as well as their minds, it becomes really hard for them to actually make a decision to work with anyone else. If they feel that you share their worldview and you share their values and you share their vision, and this is why it's really important to work on your own vision and actually understand what it is that you're trying to do, people will feel more, you're going to attract your tribe, right? So if your value is very inner, the personality is how it's expressed, and that may well be in the messaging, and the voice is part of that personality, but it's the messaging and it's the look and the feel of your brand. So this is where you start to make the emotional connection. So the best way that I can show this actually is talking about, this is a Mintel report which came up, which was talking about brand future. So this is stuff that's going to be hot over the next 10 years, by the way. I've condensed this entire report down into one page. By 2030, think about this, there are going to be 8.5 billion people on the planet. Necessity will drive innovation among more purposeful and ethical lines. Basically, the companies that came through to the fore during lockdown were those companies that we felt were trying to do more than just make money. Certainly, if there were companies that were just trying to jump on the bandwagon, we got turned off very quickly. We were deciding where to spend our money over lockdown. Money was possibly tighter for a lot of people, for a lot of you, if your businesses weren't doing so great. So you had to start making those choices. Challenger brands rejecting the old and embracing the new are going to be a big thing going forward, but also CSR, corporate social responsibility, giving back is going to be more of an expected and a key measure of performance, and transparency, clean products, services, and operations. There's another trend coming through that feelings of loneliness and isolation are going to reach epidemic proportions by 2030. The need for real human connection has never been greater. So anything in your brand that is bringing people together, much like this, Alex, is going to really help your business. And getting together like-minded tribes, forming together like we are today, globally online. Businesses that are tapping into experiences and physical, mental, and emotional experiences and sparking joys are also going to win over owning things. People are less about owning things now, more about experiences. So think about that too. And 55% of customers globally have said that they will pay more for products and services from companies committed to positive social and environmental impact. So these are things that are really moving people. I don't know if you've all heard about Generation X, Y, and Z. I'm Generation X because I'm really old now. Generation Y with the millennials. I don't know if we've got any millennials in the house today. Any millennials? Put your hands up. Andrew, way. Okay, Ruben. So for millennials, it became all about the experience. For Generation Z, here's going to make you feel old, Ruben. Generation Z is coming up now, and they're coming into the workplace. And the thing for them that is coming through more than anything is about ethics. So over the next 10 years, I mean, that right now they've been predicted to have 40% of spending power. And that's who you need to be looking at, Generation Z and their values. And this is all about Gen Z. I actually talked to an investor the other day. She helps businesses get investment, and I gave her the full presentation of this, and she said that's really interesting because the companies that are demonstrating this are the ones that are getting invested in right now. So ignore your peril, your values, right? Really establish those values and then work out what that means as a personality and a voice. If anybody needs more information on that, it's in the book, and I can send you a sample of the book later on. So stand out. Here we go. The standout part of your branding or the brand process. This process, by the way, is so powerful that I can do this for startup businesses in just one day. I can create the brand in a day using the vision process. And we work on this bit in the morning. So the competitor analysis is like when we look at, if you want to create a standout brand, you need to not look like your competitors, right? Just from a very visual perspective. If you do, so a lot of people, what they'll do when they're starting out their businesses, oh, right, well, everybody in the business space is blue, so I'm going to have myself a blue logo. Or everybody in this female, in the wedding business is sort of pink and floral and girly, so we're going to go pink and floral and girly because that's what's expected, right? If you do exactly the same as what your customers do, as what your competitors do, you're not going to stand out. So what I do is help people do standout brands, and just enough to people look again and actually go, they look a bit different. That's how you convey your difference, right? Because the first thing that we do is we see. So when you start with do, say, see, by the way, your customers come at it with see, say, do. The first impression is the first thing they get. Then they will find out what you do, what you're saying, and then they will find out what you do. So think about it. For the visual needs to be much more important than you think it is. We're judging and we go on first impressions. So then I also look at related industries, and I also look back at the fab. So I'll just show you what I did with Lorna. So Lorna's business was, we looked at, for her competitor analysis, we Googled. So what I do is I'll Google image search, wedding planning logos or wedding services logos or wedding planning services logos and look at what comes up. Take a screen grab, have a look, pin them into Pinterest. We also looked at businesses targeting the pink pound and the LGBT community, various search terms going on for that one. Lorna's business had to sit in the middle of those, and it needed to actually appeal to both those sectors, not only people planning a wedding, but people who were in the LGBTQ plus community. This was the wedding, or one of the sides of the wedding analysis. Again, what can we see? It's very girly, lots of floral typefaces, maybe a little tiny bit of pink, but yeah, very scripty fonts, because that's what women like, right? And it's very much, most women, most wedding planners are geared very much to what the bride wants. So obviously with Lorna's, there might be two men coming to get married. So none of this floral stuff was really going to work for her. So we decided that she didn't want that stuff anyway. She definitely didn't want pink, and she definitely didn't want, she actually told me, no pink, no rainbows. So we had a very definite colour brief there. No, I want no bloody pink and no rainbows. Bloody hell. LGBT community is not all about rainbows. What she actually wanted was something far more sophisticated and high end. And while we were talking about colours, she actually said, I really like the colouring on there was Method brought out some limited edition with a sort of shimmer on it. Lizzie, you're nodding there. You may have bought those bottles as well. And actually did sample off an image of that for her logo. You'll see how that turned out in a minute. So once we've decided what we're doing in this phase, is actually what I do with the client is I'm working out what they like, what they don't like, but also what works in the industry and what doesn't work in the industry. You will find industry norms and industry cliches. Now, this is what I would call an industry cliche, right? The rainbow colors, if you're appealing to a gay market, is a cliche. And if you want to stand out in your industry, maybe don't do that, because maybe the gay community are a bit sick of it, actually. But also, if you're in a business environment, there is a lot of blue. If you're a business coach and you go and have a look at that, there's a lot of blue, and there's a lot of bold typefaces. And so what we're looking at is we're picking apart the type, the color, the imagery. With this one, it was about the type. There's lots of floral typefaces in the wedding industry, and she didn't want that. She was not that girly girl, and neither were her target market. So we start to gather that information. All of that stuff I do in the morning, and then the afternoon we design. And this is where you start pulling together the look and the feel. So the second half, we're moving into the second half of the vision process, which is all about the image. And so we've got typography, we've got color, we've got imagery. Those are the three aspects. I've just checked the time and I need to get moving on. So this was Lorna's imagery. We kind of, this is not the right imagery to use for her, because the strapline I came up with was about being out and proud. And these people are not proud. We guessed they were probably straight and didn't want their identity. So this was the sort of imagery we came up with for her. This was the logo that I came up with for her, but we wanted an image to go with that. Now the images were all bells and flowers and rings, wedding rings, and a bride and groom, and none of that really worked for her. The typeface was nice and clean. We used a grey, which is kind of quite neutral. We used that soft blushy rose gold in the My Oh My, which kind of felt breathless. We started Googling imagery around love rather than weddings, and then we came up with this. And that actually really spoke to her, and it made her cry when I put the dove on there, because the dove actually symbolizes peace, but also love. But also, it was peace and acceptance and freedom. But doves are about freedom, and it was the freedom to marry who you want and how you want, which obviously the gay community have struggled for many years. So she cried about that one. So then output is a brand guideline. So if you ever have your branding done by a designer and all you get is a logo, that's not your branding. Your branding is not your logo. It's all these things. So brand guidelines are one of the things that you should get out of a brand project. And this was the first page of Lorna's brand guidelines. And it's an essential business asset, because once you've got your brand guidelines, sticking to your guidelines is crucial to building brand recognition. If you turn up looking different every time you're online because you don't know what colors to use and what typeface to use and what imagery to use, Vicky, you're smiling there. Is that something that you recognize? It's kind of, you're giving out a schizophrenic message to the market, and they don't if they can't recognize you, they're never going to know, like, and trust you, right? Recognition is the first part of know, like, and trust. So this is kind of when it all came together. It was a bit of a mock-up for her website and her business cards, which were actually printed in that soft rose gold ink. And so that's kind of the whole thing. Now, nurture is for you established business owners. It's like what your brand should evolve over time. So I've just talked about consistency is so important. Thank you, Alex. Yes. Your brand should evolve over time there. So I've just said you've got to be consistent, don't change anything up. But we've got this amazing human dichotomy of actually we want familiarity, but we also get bored with seeing the same thing over the time, and we get bored as business owners seeing our own branding. You should get bored, by the way, of your own branding, because your target market only sees about 5% of what you put out. You see your brand every single day, and you should get bored of it. But at the point that you're getting bored, other people are just getting familiar with it, right? So how do you protect and nurture your brand as it grows? This is about brand evolution, not revolution. It's not about changing the McDonald's archers to pink just because one day the marketing manager was a bit bored and they decided to change it, right? It's about doing it with some kind of evolution and strategy. So this is a client, Sarah Milne-Rowe, who came to me actually wanting a new brochure. And she decided that, I said to her, what's your brand guidelines? And she showed me them. And I was like, but they don't go with the things that you've shown me, like her brand assets. These were some of her brand assets. I actually did a brand assessment with her before we worked together. And it kind of gives you a roadmap as to what's going on with your brand. I use a traffic light system, and it's like green. This is great about your brand. You've got to continue doing this. Orange or amber is not, it's okay, but it could do with it polishing up and tweaking. And red is you need to stop doing this. This is not serving your brand at all. So it gave us a real clear roadmap. This was a short, a small amount of the assets that she gave me. As you can see, it looks very disjointed. It doesn't look like one brand. There's various different styles of illustration going on. There's this weird image, which we don't even know what it was. Is it a mirror? It's actually, I thought it was a porthole or a window. It's actually meant to be a mirror. The Coaching Impact logo doesn't actually have an awful lot of impact. This you could barely see. Her brochures looked very different to her PowerPoints. As I say, 3 different types of illustration. There's no excuse for Comic Sans in your brand at all. So somebody had produced these water bottles and that went in the red pile. That was absolutely no. She's got a book out called Shed. She even had different book jackets for it. It was published by Penguin, but it's the Shed method is about sleep, hydration, exercise and diet. And she goes into big businesses like Stella McCartney was the one that she was working with at the time. And her associates were actually saying that they felt embarrassed going in and presenting in front of Stella McCartney with the sort of slides that they had, which included these cartoony type illustrations, which were done by someone on her team who used to be a newspaper journalist, cartoonist sort of person. I said, yeah, they look that way, but they're cheapening your brand. And they went on the no pile as well. And she's like, well, I really want these illustrations, and I've got illustrations in my books. I was like, okay. But she said she was okay. She wasn't too fussed about the style of those, but she really liked this, what I'll call the boom head, because she's had that done by another illustrator and she really liked that style. So I said, well, how about we do these ones? She had 10 of these cartoon illustrations in her PowerPoints. How about we make those in the boom style, and that will elevate your brand. So this is the before and this is the after. So this is a brand evolution. So if you've got a brand that's not quite working for you, we cleaned it up and we made it ready for 2020. We didn't know what an arse 2020 was going to be at the time, obviously, but this was, we've certainly set her brand up for success. So the old mirror had to go because that didn't read as a mirror. So we changed that to a mirror and we made it cleaner. We made the Coaching Impact logo. She said she didn't want a logo change. I said, just humour me, then we'll just make it stronger. It's got more impact, right? We simplified her brand palette. So we got rid of what I call this mucky cream because it didn't actually reproduce faithfully. They used 3 different printers as well. And when they printed off their PowerPoint decks, they all look grey and mucky. So we just got rid of it and cleaned it up and actually just put white in there instead. We added more colors. So this blue was in there already, but we actually added a couple of shades of the same blue to make a more, these 2 colors were already in her brand palette, the turquoise and the yellow, but she wasn't using the yellow at all. So we brought that in, and actually then we could make the illustrations that we got redrawn multicultural, because I'm big on diversity and inclusion. And we kept this, so the boom head stayed, and we actually redrew the head here that the trainers could use in their PowerPoints as well, to make it very simple, but also more in style. So everything just looks a lot more at market. Everything just looks a lot more pulled together, looks a lot more on brand. And finally, we did get around to doing that brochure and pulling all her brochures in line as well. So that's one. Here's another one. I mean, Sarah was thrilled. I'm just not going through all the whole of the case study. Let me just see what's in chat there. I was at HSBC, Andrew says, when they rebranded with the Prism, many millions spent with the templates, rules, script font, you name it, in all our internal and external communications. Well, you'll be glad to know it doesn't cost £1 million to work with me. But yeah, I mean, you know, how long is a piece of string? And also it's about, you've got to think about the value to the business and actually how that's going to help you grow. I'm going to tell you about the value it made to difference to Antoinette's business. So this was another business coach who came to me about 5 years ago when my business first started. She was one of my first clients. And we worked together over a period of 4 years. In fact, the last thing I did for her is in January this year. But I've kind of done quite a lot of her stuff now. So she came to me again wanting a brochure. I said, give me what you got. She showed me this. It was all very schizophrenic was the word that I used, not even using her brand colours here on the side, which is all she had. Her logo, could you tell that she worked in the IT industry? Doesn't really say IT. The designer had tried to do something that looked, as you know, was meant to look like a signature. This AO in the middle was really ugly. Talent development, what the hell is that? Is she Simon Cowell? I've no idea what that's. What is she? What does she? You know, what is that talent development? The icons on her website weren't even tied in with her brand colors. There were so many typefaces going on here. It was eye-wateringly painful. This was her training pack, one of her career conversations kits. And I just sort of said it looked like a chameleon had sort of been sick, really. There was all kinds of colours going on here. Again, not to do with her brand colours. They don't look like part of the same brand. And to top it all, her book was coming out in 6 weeks' time, and she had, and that was green, so it wasn't even part of the brand colours. And she was like, well, I can't change my brand. I said to her, you don't need a brochure, love, you need a rebrand. She said, I can't change my book because that's tested really well with my target market, and it's already gone out on social. So I had to reverse engineer that green into her new brand palette. So I said, fine, we'll keep that. Obviously, the name had to stay. She wanted the same format logo. She didn't have time for the full rebrand, but what she wanted to be able to do was change her new logo, put a new logo and her new colours in on her PowerPoints and on her presentations and on her website. So we did a sort of staged rollout of her rebrand. But the first thing to tackle was the logo, because it was bloody awful. So having to keep the same name, and I had to keep the AO as well, by the way, because the name's so long, wonderfully Downton Abbey-esque, Antoinette Oglethorpe. But the AO is her nickname. That's what people call her, and she used that when she didn't have room for the full logo. So we also worked on her strapline talent development, which wasn't really a strapline and didn't really help people. So that's the new one. Looks far more like she works in the IT. Yeah, Matthew's not in there. A lot neater font. We actually changed that AO so it represented, because what she helps is develop geeks into, well, what she did do, her business pivoted a little bit, was help people climb that mountain. So it actually symbolizes a person looking up at the mountain, that AO. So now there's a symbolism to it, as opposed to this horrible script. And we came up with a much punchier, well, more stronger, develop leaders, deliver strategy, drive results. That's what she does. That's what she does for the, or did for the IT industry. Because Antoinette saw her new logo and she was thrilled with it. And she went, oh, I can't bear my business cards now. Can you just do me my business cards as well? I can't bear to look at it. We also developed this new color palette for her. So we kept a bit of the old color palette, a similar purple and a similar gray to sort of ground it. We added that green in, and then I added these two other colors in. Now, these two top colors speak of professionalism and authority. These two bottom colors are about nurturing and growing the teams. So the problem that she was solving is basically that geeks, in her experience, were kind of really good, started these companies, because these fast growth companies, because they were really good at technology, but then once their business grows, they haven't got the people skills. And so actually it was about helping these techie people learn the people skills to be able to make them great managers and then grow their business. So we worked together, you know, over 4 years, and finally, after about 18 months of working together, she got her suite of brochures, not just the one brochure. My throat's going, I'm rattling through this without having a drink. And we provided all kinds of assets for her. What effect did it have on Antoinette's business? This is just a short excerpt. She said, I felt the rebrand enhanced my credibility, that my company had grown up and I was playing at a higher level. My brand is now aligned with who I am and what I'm saying. It brings a sophistication and maturity, an additional professionalism to everything. First impressions are stronger. Clients have complimented me on it. And I know I won at least one piece of business because of it. I know I've won business off Antoinette's branding, by the way, because she's been speaking all over the world, and she had people coming up to her going, there was a lady in America who went, your branding, your slides are awesome. And I ended up working with her as well. So, and Antoinette said that I feel I'm being offered more significant opportunities as a result. Right? She's ended up going on to work for the World Health Organization and the government. And I'm not saying that my branding was the thing that got her there. Clearly her abilities got her there, but she felt more confident going for those bigger pictures, and she looked the part, right? It's easier to be confident selling a high value package when it looks the part too. Here's disclosure. Antoinette had a product which she sold for £1,600 before she worked with me. After she worked with me, she put that same product up with no changes to 2,600, and she got it, right? So suddenly she's making that return on investment very, very quickly, right? And that's the thing, people will pay more. She actually had a client who said, and she said, looked like this, she'd stepped off the front pages of Vogue magazine. And the woman actually said that she wanted to work with her when she saw her marketing collateral next to her competitors, because the other competitor looked so dated, their marketing collateral looked so dated, that she actually felt that maybe her training methods would be as well. So it's about the first impression, right? It's about the first impression. Here's a first impression. This guy, could you tell that his average sale is about 10 to 12 grand? No, looks cheap. This is the before. I should put the before on here before you fall off your chair and think I did this. Chris Smith was actually trying to scale his business, and they sash window renovations. And it was painful. He was in a group that I'm a member of, and he was trying to apply his new logo or his logo, or trying to come up with something to go on the side of his new van. And the guy who runs the group just said, you've got to speak to Sapna. I just watched this whole thing play out. I never kind of jump in there and go, oh, I could help you. I wait for somebody else to recommend me, because I think that's always more powerful. So this was a logo that he'd created himself. Anyway, we had a call, and I sort of said, so where did this logo come from? He said, yeah, I designed that myself, and we got a designer to polish it up. Now, I'm a northern girl and I tell it like it is. And I said to him, but Chris, you can't polish a turd. So I'm sorry, but it was just an awful logo. We'd already established that we were working together, and it is an awful logo. And pictures of things in logos like this just looks, if you're trying to do a picture of what you sell, that just looks awful. Slightly different when you've got a dove, which symbolizes something. So this was his Facebook page. This was his website. It was all grey and horrible looking and not premium. And these pictures that he'd taken himself on his iPhone, not good. I said, you look like you're casing the joint there. It doesn't look like the work that you're doing. You look like you're casing the joint. And this doesn't look premium. The people that are buying this, they live in period properties. They're probably old money, or they've got a bit of cash to spend. They're spending 10 to 12 grand to get their windows, kind of repaired, not even replaced. These are old money, or old money mentality. And like a lot of workmen, he actually wanted something in black and gold, because black and gold's classy, innit? And I went, no, you're not having black and gold. Well, kind of. Anyway, this was a day's working with him, and we rebranded him. That's the new logo. It was all about elegance, because actually the homes that these people are living in, Edwardian Victorian properties, much more elegant. We put the swash on the R for the elegance. We made the H a little bit higher. Came up with his new strapline. His old one was the sash window specialist. This one was superior sash window renovations, because actually what they want on their drive is they want their neighbours to know that they're not just having sash window renovations, right? They're having superior sash window renovations. So he also said to me he wants to look better than his competition. And because his competition weren't doing as good a job as him, but they had a much nicer website, because they were a national advertiser, national brand. And so actually just by putting superior in there, it kind of was sort of knocking the competition without saying it. In terms of photography and the imagery, I said, look, don't case the joint. Think about it from your customer's point of view. The customer's point of view is actually not looking up at it like that. It's looking out the window at their beautiful sash windows, right? So invite them in, make it more homes and gardens. Yes, you can have some of the case studies at the bottom, but don't hero them on your website, right? Make it more magazine-y, more lifestyle. And then we also worked on the colours. So he wasn't having black as his brand colour. He also said to me, I wish I'd spoken to you before I bought my van, Sapna, because my van's not going to be on brand now. And I said, well, yeah, it is. Again, we retro-engineered the colour. I got a paint dropper tool, and I actually just put those greys in from the these shades that come from his van. So his van looks on brand now. And he said he still wanted the gold. So I said, well, look, let's put an old gold in there, a muted soft shade of gold, which will just give it, it's not blingy, it's actually just much more sophisticated. And it just, the whole thing just looks, you know, so much more polished. I'm not going to read you his whole testimonial. It'll take all my time. We've only got a minute to go. But this was, you know, the empowering. He said, more importantly, the new branding is not only powerful for our new customers, it's powerful for the company. It shows the standard we need to live up to and sets the benchmark for our business. Not only is it a powerful tool for attracting our ideal customers, but it's showing our employees and team members the standard that needs to be achieved. Right. So it actually motivates people internally as well. So that was bang on 45. I hope that's all right. I haven't left an awful lot of time for questions, but you know, if you want to build a standout brand, you need to stand out. If you want to win business, you need to catch people's attention. As Dr. Seuss said, why fit in when you were born to stand out, right? So if you want to get a free sample of my book, go to letsvisibleBook.com, pop your email in there and we'll send you a free sample of the book so you can read a little bit more about kind of Do Safe See and the beginning of the process. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and find out more about how to build a brand that, you know, that absolutely helps you stand out in your industry and supercharges your business growth, then do. I'm just going to have a quick look at the messages. Umar Sheikh, can I have your email address, please? Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Sapna Pieroux. It was Pieroux. There's only one of me in the entire world, so I'm very Googleable. Matthew Harding, very good session. Awesome presentation. Many thanks. Bought the book. It's only a few quid on Amazon. Thank you very much, John McDonald. Chris, Grace case studies. Thank you, Sapna. Great presentation. Thank you. Really interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. I hope to see you on LinkedIn. Do connect with me and do pop your email addresses in for that free sample of the book as well. Thank you.